open, Zeri and Lucian gone. There is still that Kalista open available, but it looks like we were just talking about Wayward's MVP performances on that Gwen. They are going to lock it in from this early in the draft.
Okay, well, on the other side, you get Wayward, as you just mentioned. The highlight clip we just saw was about this top lane as Gwen, so a nice little chance to show us again in game number 1. But Aux, on the other side, Tian threatening around his jungle pool. Now, he's someone we know has Lee Sin right at the tippy top of his career pool. Wonder if we're going to see that come out this game, but at the very least, we start with an AD carry. Priority for JackeyLove on the Aphelios.
Yeah, interesting to take the Aphelios so early. I guess part of it is they feel comfortable with the matchup if Kalista is picked by FPX. Aphelios can obviously just get up close and personal with red-white, completely shred through it and does outscale. That being said, FPX, you could even lean in the direction of Ezreal in this situation. One of the biggest issues for Aphelios is range, and obviously Ezreal is a champion who can be so far away. But prior to that, FPX, one of their game wins was on the back of xiaolaohu on that Fiora.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're able to translate into a full series, but a matchup where, you know, you will be able to duel in the side lane. Fiora just outscales everything when it comes to late game side lane play. So not as strong in the team fights as Gwen, but a solid lane to play around. Now for FPX, I feel like AD carry makes a lot of sense to pick up here. If you do leave it, then you're going to miss out on having that before the next set of bans. But instead, looking towards that Nautilus as something as an answer to the Aphelios.
I truly wonder what we're going to get for LWX then. As you said, you leave it to the round of bans when Lucian Draven's already been taken off the board and JackeyLove steals away the Aphelios that LWX made so many of his highlight plays on in 2020, even 2021 to add in. We get the bottom lane for top esports being a priority in Aux. In the other vein, while we have the Viego picked up, we also have to start considering junglers if top esports don't prioritize Tian here.
Yeah, I mean, FX could look in that direction. The other issue is that because top esports have first priority coming out of the next rotation, if there's any mids that are available, they could lean towards those. Like, obviously, Ari's banned away, but if they had priority on something like a Corki or along those lines, they're going to start banning away those AD carries, though. And that's the thing. Kai'Sa would obviously pair well with Nautilus, but you also have to bear in mind into a Braum as well. It'll be very hard for the Nautilus to find those aggressive trade windows.
True, very, very true. I feel like as well, Aux, as we continue going down through the AD carry pool, like there's a lot of AD carries here that top esports know about LWX. Like he's a Vayne player historically. To Kai'Sa, we already pulled out. What else there? Like Jinx, even Kalista is one we didn't touch on with the Nautilus and the engaged 2v2.
Yeah, so banning the Kalista away, a lot of things that pair well with the Nautilus. I honestly feel like it's not the best lane to pair Nautilus with Ezreal, but Ezreal makes sense because like if you play anything that's trying to go aggressive, you're just going to get Braum shield. It's going to make things difficult. The range, obviously, a massive factor as well. But we'll see what FPX have to go for. You know, they do end up banning away the Lee Sin from Tian, but still not too much targeted in that jungle pool. I expect, unless there's a mid, they're really focused on picking up now. Probably just going to be a jungle pick for Tian.
But what would you do as Knight? I mean, Knight's been someone who'd go to Galio. Ari we've seen, which is already banned away. Aux, it seems they want the counter pick for the mid lane. Give Tian the junglers left over. We don't see too much Jarvan, but at the very least, that Trundle makes a lot of sense here as well.
Top esports with 4 champions with blue splashes, right? This is like a team. This is feeling like TFT right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, the Trundle does mean they can kite quite effectively on the back of the Braum as well. I will say the reason Jarvan would have made sense to me is they're kind of lacking a bit of engage in their composition. Okay. And especially when you're going up against the likes of an Ezreal, if this does get locked in, you're really going to struggle to get on top of the Ezreal. But it looks like instead FPX want a bit more teamfight power. They are going to go for that Jinx, for that reset potential. And between the Viego and the Jinx, if you do start to get initial kills, you will be able to chain them together effectively.
I mean, as well, from xiaolaohu, the Fiora adding into the context of a fight as well. Aux, it feels like there's a lot of layers here for FPX. I like that you bring up the reset mechanic. How do you complement this to finish off 8 seconds? We've got Care's champion to consider. It has to be a safe blind, and I guess enhancing the early game with this Twisted Fate seems to be the way to go.
Yeah, so I think when you have a scaling team fighter in Jinx and you have a scaling split pusher in Fiora, having the TF means you can play for either of those quite effectively. It does mean, though, I feel like when it comes to team fights, you're going to struggle a bit. So much power from top esports, right? There's 4 bulky members who you're going to struggle to get resets on. If you're trying to kill a Sylas quickly, trying to kill a Gwen quickly, it's not really going to happen. You have to play around those stun cards quite well, but if top esports can get on top of your backline, it's going to cause problems. I think FPX, they need to come out swinging. They need a strong early performance. They either need to get LWX or xiaolaohu ahead if they want this game to work.
But Aux as well, outside of your color palette where we see everyone is blue on the side of top esports to continue it
They
off.
finished the theme. They did it.
Yeah, they did, man. They were listening to you. I was going to finish off saying that, like, Knight just came out of an interview where he said Sylas he thinks is really strong at the moment. And we haven't seen too much Twist of Fate. We haven't seen too much matching. But when we're in the heavy meta of Galio, TF, these mobility mids, we often saw things like the Sylas come through as a response to Aux. And Knight Sylas is one of legend where domestically he has popped off and had some of his best games of his career.
Yeah, Knight's best split was when Sylas was meta. Everyone remembers when he broke the solo kill record, was an absolute monster, despite top esports not being as hard. And also Sylas is in a really good spot. So durability changes means we get longer fights. Sylas gets more rotations of cooldowns. We also saw Grievous Wounds nerfed. So even empowered Grievous Wounds is only 40%, which, I mean, you need Grievous Wounds against Sylas. But on top of that, 12-11, he did get buffs. It was a reduction to the cooldown on his W early. It was a reduction to his E cooldown. The healing of his W also went up. So he's actually in a good spot, and this is a good matchup and a good game for it. So Knight absolutely in a position to pop off.
I want to say as well, you just talk about healing. Healing on that whole side of the squad feels very relevant to talk about here as top esports go up against FPX now. Let's tell you what's on the stakes because you're waiting for that V5 RNG matchup later. We completely understand, but hey, FPX versus top esports, both reputable organizations. As we go to a pause, yes, we get more time to talk. Aux, that means I can ask for more graphics to come back up. Aux, as we kind of like lull things out, and ladies and gentlemen, we will find out what the delay is. I was just saying before, FPX literally at the bottom of the barrel right now, 0-4 for the once world champion organization. But Aux, they versed EDG, they versed IG, they versed RNG, they versed V5. Like, this organization's start of schedule has been, I think, one of the roughest out of any team.
Yeah, it's definitely a harsher start of schedule. I'll 100% admit that. So a lot of opportunity to claw it back in the later side.
Yeah.
They have still looked rough, though, I've got to say. I mean, even the fact that they went against IG and lost. And also, you have to think about... So they made playoffs last time. They were the 10th place team, the last team to make playoffs, and they were 8-8. If they lose the series against top esports, they are 0-5. If they want to make playoffs, you know, assuming things pan out similarly, you really can't afford to lose more than 8 series. Otherwise, you're probably not making playoffs. So that literally gives them 3 series wiggle room. They still haven't played JDG. You know, there's still some other threatening teams that they're going to go up against. Yeah. And even when you look at some of the teams like Ultra Prime, Anyone's Legend, even LGD has had a recent upswing. You can never rule these teams out. So I feel like despite the fact they've had a hard schedule, you don't get that many games, right? If you're already 0-4, time is ticking. You have to start getting wins on the board. And I'll be real, top esports are a fantastic team, but they are also probably, out of our top 4 from last split, you know, V5, RNG, JDG, top esports are probably the team to do the most happy gaming. Let's put it that way.
Well said. It feels like, you know, top esports, other team you can pull margins ahead, but still doesn't. You don't, and that's the thing is with FPX, like we didn't get a chance to talk about how this team's been coming together and what it's looked like so far, Aux. And I was going to ask you a little bit before we go back into the game, hopefully soon, as we find out what the weight issue is. FPX have gone down swinging. They have been quite aggressive, Aux, especially in the V5 game. I think it was a lot of fun to watch. But what is wrong with this team? Like, what's your quick diagnosis of what FPX has kind of been doing wrong?
I feel like they've lost their identity. I mean, even in the spring, we kind of looked at this team as a team who would lean towards bot, play through bot. They're kind of missing that quite heavily, and it's struggling because Lwx and Hung, I mean, we've made the memes about Hung. Hung is a player who goes in, and I feel like when he's not being covered or when he's been left out to dry, it means the bot lane will fail. They don't have that same restraint. And then I'm going to be honest, I've been a bit underwhelmed by Clid so far. He really hasn't had a good performance, and I feel like the lanes need him to be performing if they're going to be able to function.
I mean, Clid has such a big name behind him. Remember, SKT jungler. Clid starting off in JDG in the LPL all those years ago. You expect a lot more from this man, but when he goes up against Tian today, a lot of people sitting here favoring top esports, favoring Tian as we enter Summoner's Rift once again. Can FPX finally get their first series win, or a top esports going to be too much and take them to 0-5? Now, we had a bit of a pause. We are back, folks. Didn't find out the reason for that one. However, we're in, and that's all that matters. And Aux, we're talking a little bit about the compositions here. And for top esports, as Clid goes into the brush, might be in a bit of danger. starting with the blue buff. I'll hold on that question because Clid is going to have to back away from blue. He started this by himself without a leash. He has no support, and Tian is going to be taking it from under his nose. Not the greatest way to start when we talk about them being the underdogs.
Yeah, really not a good position to be put in. And Tian's not stopping. He's still going.
I'll take that one. And you know what? Auto. Yeah, that's mine as well. See ya, Clid. Goodbye. Thumbs down.
And the thumbs down. Been learning from Wayward there, Tian. And this is just a fantastic play. I think something, if you didn't catch it last split, it was you saw the Shy on Gwen would invade enemy jungle level 1 super aggressively and just bother the enemy jungler. This is like an expansion of that. Trundle and Gwen both very threatening level 1. FPX wouldn't be able to contest, so not only do they end up losing out on the buff and the two little walls, but also, you know, Clid, the fact he was starting on that side of the map, they have information, they know where he is, and they just waste so much time for him.
Look how much Tian has left as well in his own jungle. Going back up to his red buff. He'll have his blue there too. Clid getting through his clears. He finally picks up red, but that's maybe 2.5 camps if you want to be quite literal here for the jungler of FPX. So he's start a little bit behind, positioning towards bottom side now, Aux to see what he can do. And while we're talking about him, look at top side, Wayward versus xiaolaohu, going in the top esports favor. Like, we don't have time to talk about comps because top esports already starting the early game in a massive way.
Yeah, and we'll see if Tian can make it here to contest this. He's actually looping around to go for a gank mid, so Tian might be in trouble.
He's got his flash available. Tian now spotted out. The abscond of Dark Knight looking for the lockdown, the flash away, but he'll be slowed down. The chain lash helping out. Flashes away. Gold card only onto one, and Knight strikes. Tian making this game one look easy.
And it's just such a fantastic read. He knows Clid, the only thing he's going to want to do is go into his jungle and steal away that blue buff to make up for it. Because he's down camps, he's not going to be able to do anything in his own jungle, so he expects Clid to be on his blue. He doesn't have prio bot, he doesn't have prio mid, so instead of contesting and potentially being collapsed on, he instead goes for that gank mid, manages to get a kill for Knight on this Sylas, and just such a fantastic start for top esports.
I mean, it's great when you talk about Tian and the quality of this man's play, a world champion in his own right. Tian really showing that in this first game, and we just criticized Clid coming into the series. The jungler that's had less of an impact that Aux has been disappointed with. Tian showing him up once again establishes that as FPX cancels their bot in the bottom lane. Aux, this looks dangerous.
Yeah, Lwx in trouble.
It's an early flash though. The Winter's Bite connects a pillar against Wall. Lwx has nowhere to go. Tian comes in. The strength of Trundle as a reset comes through though. And this is what you wanted to see. But for Clid, can he survive? Braum is so strong in extended skirmishes. And Trundle is too. Top esports winning out in the bot wall. Look at the top side. I mean, xiaolaohu getting beaten out of his own lane. What else can go wrong?
Yeah, and if you look at the wave state as well, top, this is going to push in a Wayward. This might be able to be froze on him. xiaolaohu's going to have to TP back in. We're going to replay, and this is the power of the Braum in these early skirmishes, as you said. Force Lwx to flash early. They take him out, and as much as FPX try to kill back, this is a problem with Viego before level 6. He possesses an Aphelios next to a Braum Trundle. You don't want to be in that situation, but before level 6, you can't reset, you can't jump out again, so he just ends up going down. Really, once more, Tian is just completely dismantling Clid so far in this game.
It's an 800 gold lead, and you said it so well. Aux, I need to ask you now as to what FPX do to stop the bleeding, because we have a Twisted Fate. He's almost level 6. You need to run me through the plays that they need to start making in order to regain control.
Well, you don't need to opt into these. That's the thing, is that when you get level 6 on the Trundle, skirmishes get so much more powerful because you're going to have the ability to reset. The resets on your ultimate so strong, but also the Twisted Fate, right? He is just at level 6 now. Find opportunities where you have a numbers advantage or an information advantage. That's a big aspect of the Destiny. It's not just the fact you travel there. You also see everyone on the map, so you can, you know, before you press the teleport in, you can make the decision, is this the right play? True. At the moment, before level 6, if you're trying to match Tian on a Trundle, this is where he thrives. Pre-level 6, he just out-duels almost every jungler. That's why he was a counter to Xin Zhao, one of the strongest early junglers we saw, because he could just beat him up.
I think it's important to note as well, you were just talking about, you know, what Care can do, maybe, you know, make the decision here, Aux. If we get a dredge line in the bottom lane, action continues to play out as JackeyLove takes a beating, but Mark with the rest. Destiny being used, and here we go, proactivity from FPX, but Gravitum under the turret with a teleporter response. Knights here with a depth charge, stolen, Hung the first to die. JackeyLove Mark still alive as Lwx under the turret is taking so much follow-up damage. Thank you for the kills, he shouts from the grave as Clid is slowed down once again. It's FPX who started this play, but it's Top Esports who finish it, trading equally.
Yeah, I mean, just a fantastic TP from Knight. As you said, grabs the depth charge to turn that one around. I will say, still feels rough for JackeyLove. JackeyLove had a massive wave being crashed into the tower, so misses out on so much. And it was a good timing for FPX. It's just unfortunately they couldn't stop Knight from being able to match. And it ends up trading pretty poorly. Now, Tian should be able to finish this off and get Smite, I would think. Actually, going to be close.
Yeah, but he's by himself. Ignite goes down, gets the Smite down, Pillar to slow down. But remember, Clid's not 6 and neither is Tian as Mark comes in to slow him. And JackeyLove now here with a triple, grabbing him at the ready to lock down. With Knight, the fed one following up, and FPX walking into a trap. Knight is 4-0-1 Aux, and I will say that this mid laner got everything he wanted.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that Tian also gets the Drake there. Big thing with Trundle is you heal based on things that die nearby you.
Oh, yeah.
Enemies typically, obviously, only enemies. But the dragon, when you smite, you get such a massive heal. So despite the fact he went low trying to clear it, was able to heal up. The team gets there. JackeyLove even coming from a flank angle. And we'll see that again. It's just the dive bot lane. So they feel like it's a good opportunity. Mark doesn't have his shield, which means it's easier to pull off the dive. But the fact Knight comes in, obviously Sylas great in these skirmishes and has the ultimate to disrupt. And yeah, they get the 2 kills, but to lose 3 in return, just devastating.
As we look at bottom again, I love this. This is what we talked about. FPX want blood, but Top Esports are always there waiting in Aux. You were talking about what Care can do in this game. I want to come back to the earlier point. Knight on Sylas, the ability to match.
He's a monster.
It feels like Top Esports always have the upper edge.
Yeah, and I believe he just stole the Destiny well in the replay and used that to make a play down bot. So, you know, you're against a Twisted Fate. You're outperforming the skirmishes. He's kind of expected of Sylas, but you're also outmatching. You've made the TP play. You've made the Destiny play. Really, this is just prime Knight Sylas gameplay. And it's feeling rough already for FPX. 1,600 behind. The Sylas is going to be a problem. And I said, you know, coming out of the draft, I feel like they needed to find the momentum. They needed to be ahead.
Look at the replay in the bottom right. Aux, this is what happened. And yeah, Destiny stolen away, as you said. Knight comes in real fast.
Yeah, just not much you can do. The Braum, honestly, being fantastic for Mark. Mark's someone who's been criticized a fair bit. But speaking of criticism, JackeyLove,
yeah, deep from the turret plate. Mark is behind him, though, and he has the tomb to layer down. It's a 2-man lockup. But xiaolaohu already has his reset, the grand challenge down, and Hung's Ignite on himself will not work out. That was Mark that dropped that, of course, as FPX do get one in response off the greed, while FPX's bottom lane are now top on top of Wayward. But he presses W and looks for the lockdown, but versus 3 people, the needlework needs to fly through. Not enough healing as Care tanks it up. FPX getting a response in a game that looked absolutely hopeless.
Yeah, and you can see the lowered tower damage coming in there. You can see Care tank up a few hits, pretty successful. They didn't have to drop aggro at any point. And FPX doing a good job to answer. We said numbers advantages was the main thing they need to look for. Care able to Destiny and top, get the dive onto Wayward. And also just JackeyLove a little bit over-aggressive bot. And now Herald will come in. Big influx of gold for Clid and Lwx. And the big gold lead Top Esports are built up. It's been mitigated.
Yeah. All of a sudden, it actually looks quite competitive when this game felt done at the 5, 6, 7 minute mark. Action continues to skyrocket as... That's not an English word. Let's try again, or... Skyrocket. Across the rift. Dude, we have 13 kills in 10 minutes. Like, we didn't get to talk much about FPX coming into this game. We thought it was over from the start. This game has just been kind of a comedy mixed with a blood sport.
Yeah, I mean, I will say... Tian did a fantastic job early and was really able to challenge Clid. It didn't look good for FPX, but picking up the Herald, the way they played around it, the way they're able to find numbers advantage is actually really positive.
Yep. And
they've managed to close that gap quite a bit. It was feeling a bit desperate. I still think they're not in the best spot, though. Second Dragon's going to be coming up soon. If Top Esports secure this, it means the Soul is just so far away for FPX. Not really going to be a concern for a while. And as much as the Fiora is going to be super relevant in the side lane later on, I feel like team fights might be a struggle, especially when Sylas is so fed.
True. It's a good point as well. If you have Destiny, if you have the depth charge, which when Knight was piloting this champion so much in previous splits, it was always to steal the depth charge from the Sylas. The AP conversion is pretty messy, as we've seen in the past, yeah.
And the fact that like it just sets you up to pop the ultimate.
Speaking of setup, Lwx coming through. xiaolaohu in 1v2. He flashes over the wall, but Tian waiting the pillar in the perfect placement. Chomp to come through, but still gets the dashes. Knight's here. It's a riposte, but will it save his life? Knight flashes over with the Everfrost and the lockdown. Killed number 6, and we just go back to top esports taking control. Two-man grabbing him in the bottom lane, but it's the Destiny's response. And once again, Knight's TPing down. This guy is the big brother of top esports and is literally carrying this early game alongside Tian.
He's just everywhere. And this is so reminiscent of summer last year when Knight was just, it felt like everywhere on the map all the time. He was the one-man machine. And I will say this game, everyone else is doing their job as well. You can see Mark and JackeyLove very effectively mitigating any pressure from the bot lane with that Braum Aphelios. So hard to get up close to them with the Braum passive stacking. But Knight, whether he's needed top, mid, bot, anywhere, he is showing up and making things happen.
Showing us that this Sylas pick that he talked about in his pre-game interview is right on the money here in this game. TES had a couple of ultis himself, but only one of them coming through. I should say 2. Bottom lane dive, top lane dive as well. But for Knight, being everywhere on the map right now, definitely showing up to the legend that LPL fans know him to be. Now, Aux, I need to bring this game to maybe more of a standstill as we have a moment to breathe. 14 kills in 12 minutes. It's a 1k gold lead by top esports. We got those 2 dragons that you talked about as well, where you were just mentioning scaling and what FPX have later on into the game. As maybe Knight's not going to give you time to talk. I stand corrected. And what you talked about that scaling was the fact that for top esports, it's just going to be so big of a night in this later game portion where their setup's going to be quite nice as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very hard for FPX to find 5v5s unless they get like an initial pick into resets. And Tian potentially fishing, but with flashes available to both FPX bot lane, not really going to find anything. But as I was saying, yeah, it's going to be very hard in those 5v5s. And as much as they have the side lane option, top esports are stacking dragons quickly, right? So that means, firstly, you're probably not going to be able to... You don't have that safety net of having a couple dragons yourself to delay Soul or Elder Dragon. If we continue at this pace and top esports keep picking up dragons, one, FPX is going to be forced to teamfight sooner rather than later. And secondly, things like Elder are going to be on the cards before Fiora really gets a chance to outscale Gwen in the side lane. And it makes it problematic. And also, Cloud Soul obviously something that, you know, a lot of people don't rate too highly. I actually think one of the issues top esports have is they don't have the greatest engage. A lot of it is about flanks or just charging at the targets. The fact that a Cloud Soul can actually make a lot of difference in that. If you're trying to get on top of a Jinx, just charging at them, 10% extra movement speed, even more so when you pop your ultimate, can make a big difference, particularly for someone like Gwen, who normally takes Ghost, and we can see Wayward has the Ignite in this matchup.
I mean, it's a simple point, right? We've got characters on top esports to add on top of what you were just saying.
And you know
pop
what,
the ultis,
Jake?
and they don't stand still for that long.
You know how we said all of top esports picked blue champions?
Yeah.
Do you know who else is blue?
FPX?
Sonic the Hedgehog, right?
And
there goes to go fast.
Hey, Knight just ulted on the spot. I've got to get you out of that because that level of joke was like rubbish me level. So,
whoa,
dude, don't sit to my level.
I'm sure someone somewhere didn't hate that joke. Okay, someone somewhere didn't hate it.
Did you see the new Sonic movie? Is that what's going through your mind right now?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I haven't, you know,
Jim Carrey
it's
fan,
fun.
right.
It's got Jim Carrey out. You know,
okay.
Who doesn't like Jim Carrey?
That's true. Who doesn't like Jim Carrey? I watched not the Anchorman. What's the other classic one? You know the one where he's a detective, pet detective. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, Ace Ventura.
Yeah, I saw that for the first time. Bit of a classic.
Oh, great film, great film.
Boomer movie apparently, but I'm okay being a boomer now. I'm 27 and you know I'm getting old. In esports, so if I was a player, I would have had to retire 2 years ago. So. You know, I'm definitely getting on with my life. Hey, I'll bring us back in though because it's the game's quickly moving in favor of top esports.
No, I see it. LWX.
You do. You see it. And I was going to say this is one of the reasons why LWX is just dead. Goes to Tian, bottom side under their full control, and this turret in a bit of danger while FPX try to make a response play with the Herald top.
Yeah, I mean JackeyLove, he can stack up the chakrams and just absolutely shred through this. Gonna be able to take it down. Honestly, one of the best tower takes in the game is Trundle. Now Wayward's trying to buy time here, but I don't think he can defend.
No, he can't. He's trying at the very least. xiaolaohu getting close to dying in the top of your screen. You see that, well, it was all for naught. Knight can't save his life either. A turret for turret trade, but the kill going on top. LWX was prior to the fact. So Aux, a pretty simple trade considering that FPX were the teams that started this game #1 in such a bad spot. And you have to give them props. their bloodthirstiness still staying true to what we know so far in the LPL.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so much conversation about other regions, about LCK, LEC, LCS, how much slower the game is, especially LEC and LCS who start on 12-11. We were on 12-10 with towers being strong and still seeing this fast-paced gameplay in the LPL. And it feels like with 12-11 coming in, teams are just still so fast-paced, so able to make these plays. And ultimately, Wayward does overextend there. The gold is split by quite a few members, though. But it's an even trade. It was a kill for both sides. It was an inner tower for both sides. And the gold, despite FPX with the early failings with Tian challenging Clid, they have kept it within a decent reach. But now, 20 seconds till that Cloud Dragon. If FPX want to stop the stacking, if they want to delay things like the Elder for longer, they kind of need to get this one.
But how do you approach this fight? Maybe with Hung getting the hook in, answering my own question. Aux is Braum absorbing. Look at Mark Hill in the front line as JackeyLove only gets one-man ulti, but he's trying to get Lwx. Fails a little bit here as Knight now TP's in. The Everfrost usage matchup is Wayward with his flanking angle. The MVP we talked about from last series in the perfect place at the perfect time. It's Wayward and Knight stealing the show. Well, he might be a little bit like that old mid laner, but top Esports are still the ones to get blood.
And you can see just a difference in impact from top lane. xiaolaohu late to the fight, and also Fiora not nearly as impactful immediately as the Gwen, who can just dive in. He's such a menace. He takes out Hung, forces Care to flash away, and they will secure that third dragon. So just fantastic for top Esports. I also want to note, Knight now has the Medjai's in pocket, 12 stacks already, so getting that extra movement speed it does offer on top of all that AP.
So Aux, you said, in 5 minutes, for FPX, they're forced in a position where they have to fight earlier than they would have wanted. And now we have to kind of ramp up to that point, look at what FPX can kind of achieve. The Twisted Fate ultis, the side laning Fiora, more to talk about there is, I'm going to let you break down this one because it happens quick and fast.
Yeah, and this is part of the problem is FPX, they want that initial kill, that reset. But Mark soaks so much damage as the Braum, still has flash, so Clid can't ult him because he knows he'll just be disengaged. And then when the fight gets up close and personal, Wayward on your backline, Tian just up in the face of Clid and Lwx. All summoners burn from FPX to get out of that one, but they just aren't able to find the reset. They need that kill for Clid. They need that kill for Lwx to push forwards. And it's just so hard to find a target who will go down.
Because they are getting strong. Like, it's almost 2-item Viego here for Clid. You have 2 items on Lwx. Cole needing to be sold, but he'll be on his way to his third. So even though we're not looking around the next couple of objectives, as Tian narrowly gets Scuttlecrab at 1 HP. Yeah, the emote usage seems to have transferred to the jungler here, Aux, instead of Wayward. Hasn't been using them as much, the old top laner.
Yeah, hasn't had as many windows, but to be honest, peak Wayward is when he ends up dying and still pops the emote. So true. I respect that, but Tian do the job to pick it up. Now Wayward, we'll see if it happens.
Coming through, it's a level 12 Gwen, but under the turret, his healing might not be enough. The Everfrost coming through. He's buying time, but once more xiaolaohu gets a grand challenge. It's a trade for a turret, but FPX trading up with the kill and the blood of the structure. Gold really not that far off for a team that got shut out in the jungle. Like, it's impressive that we're still talking about this game being close despite the dragons.
Yeah, I think this is what Care has done really well in this TF is lean to the side lane, punish Wayward, put him behind, make sure xiaolaohu is getting stronger and stronger. I'm not sure it's enough. You're still down in gold. You're still heavily down in dragons. Okay, true. But you are at least keeping it within a contestable sort of level. You're keeping the towers even on top of that.
Okay, so now for FPX, what is the transition here? 3 minutes until Dragon Orc. Baron is live as well. What do you want to see FPX do to set themselves up for the Dragon fight, which obviously they've got to start looking at?
Well, ideally, I'd love to see them look for a pick, or even something that could work is before the dragon spawns, just being a summoner. If you make a play on a JackeyLove and burn his cleanse, then when it comes to the team fight, you'll have your tools back up, but his cleanse won't be available because the cooldown is a bit longer. That could be a solid play, just giving yourself the best odds possible, because right now, you know, Lwx doesn't have his flash, Hung doesn't have his, but they should be up for that dragon. Those summoners can make all the difference. So we can see some big item spikes coming in. TF now has a rapid fire cannon, so you have that long range stun card in the Everfrost. As you said before, Jinx, you know, closing up. And something that's pretty cool to note is something we've seen since 12-11 is the Chempunk Chainsword. The new, not the new, but it's been buffed. It has more ability haste, more AD. It's the item that builds all the executioners, which I think Clid is going next. And it's just like really nice. It's 125% stat efficient, but also we said they kind of need Grievous Wounds. It is going to help to be able to apply that, especially as Viego is going to be ulting people on low HP, where it applies the improved Grievous Wounds as much as it has been nerfed.
I mean, Aux, you talked about healing at the start of the game, at the start of draft. Trundle, Gwen, Sylas, Aphelios, everyone has healing
Aphelios
on this team.
Bloodthirster as well.
That's right. So it feels like Grievous Wounds in this game is so well justified, whether the item's efficient or not. It feels nice for you to pull that out because Clid's not there yet, which makes a bit of a difference as Lwx gets tagged here with a Moonlight Vigil. xiaolaohu on a ward, and for Top Esports are not going any further. A minute 20 till the Dragon, looking for FPX to get the pick. That's what Aux just talked about, utilizing this Twisted Fate and maybe even the Fiora in the side lane as xiaolaohu once again moves to the bottom wave.
But look how scary Knight is. Level 14 already right now.
Yep.
They're looking to collapse on him. This could be a good play.
But level 14, what can he do? The flash away from the Everfrost. Care uses the range, flashes himself on top of Knight in the 1v2. Clid doesn't have the item upgraded, but still the damage hurts. The Heartbreaker following in as Lwx even throws out the ultimate. Knight trying to get away with the Destiny. It's a no-go. xiaolaohu picks up the kill after teleporting himself. 45 seconds till the Dragon, and Knight's dead.
Yeah, it does have TP, and I think maybe they're going to go for the Baron start instead while he's still unavailable on the map. We'll see what Top Esports can do. Wayward currently running over.
Yeah, it's a level 13 Gwen. Remember, this guy's been big in the team fight so far. It's FPX in a game that they shouldn't be in. Now making their markers. Speaking of the devil, the ult lines the Baron pit, and Hung has to get away, but JackeyLove takes him down in a close corridor. Wayward is having the time of his life, and Top Esports bringing blood to the parade once more. Lwx the last snip, and Aux, man, close corridors really hurt FPX.
You could feel the desperation. FPX wanted to go for it. They had Smite on Care. They had Smite on Clid. They felt like this was the time to get back in the game, but trapped in a pit against Aphelios, a Trundle, a Braum, and obviously that Gwen just did not work out for them. Soul going to be picked up for Top Esports as well, and JackeyLove should be able to take this mid-tier 2. You know, they kept the game close throughout. It kind of just feels a bit doomed right now.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, even though FPX started that with the pick, the fact that we get to this point where we're right back where the game started at minute 3 is heartbreaking. As I will watch this again because this was the pick that gave FPX the confidence.
Yeah, and I think Knight was trying to steal the Destiny so that he could ult out. But the problem is the cooldown and the stun card so low. Despite the fact the CC was down, he wouldn't have much of a window. And then FPX, they don't want to flip the Dragon. They decided to flip the Baron. This is kind of reminiscent of Spring, right? FPX Barons were a thing we talked about quite a bit. The ult knocks them all up. They're all stacked together. And the front line of Top Esports just kind of body block.
Oh my god, it's hard to watch. JackeyLove gets a 3-man Gravitum again. Every single fight he's had.
Perfect weapons for that fight, by the way. Everyone clumped up, and you have blue purple. You ain't gonna complain about that one.
Oh, hell no. And JackeyLove with 12 assists as an Aphelios. That 13 out of 16 kill participation kind of tells you the story of an Aphelios that's been dove over and over again, but Top Esports have always been trading, and now, as you said, the Dragon Soul picked up a 7k gold lead at 24 minutes into the game. FPX, their backs are against their base wall, and with this Gwen in the side, with Knight roaming around, with the Baron buff helping to push in, or it seems like a perfect end to game 1 as they look for their final fight.
I will say, though, it's very hard for Top Esports to actually take these inhibitor towers because they have 4 melee champions and Aphelios who isn't the longest range, as you said, short range. And also, you're up against a Jinx and ATF. Jinx has a lot of wave clear and can start to ramp up with equal tempo if you stay in tower range too long. And Care can just throw a stun card at you. So, especially JackeyLove doesn't have a cleanse. It's very dangerous to walk up to the tower. But
with the depth charge taken away by Knight, maybe that changes. Clid has to get out of range as Top Esports want to brute force, as is in their nature. At 25 minutes in the game, the middle inhibitor will drop down, and King's now going on the bottom side. xiaolaohu getting threatened, but for Top Esports thinking about the play.
Yeah, they have got that mid inhib now. It does lead in some pressure, and you can see they're all posturing, trying to deny FPX from getting over to defend that tower. Wave is going to come in. They might just try and make a dive happen.
The Top Esports way, right? Winter's Bite not connecting, but xiaolaohu's still running Lwx against that pillar. Insane! Lwx can't move. It's like hold the door, except he didn't do anything. For Top Esports, a quick 2 kill to the fight means the third comes swiftly. Now 2 members left standing, but xiaolaohu, what can he do? Running forward, it's a triple for JackeyLove. But this has been the story of Tian. 3-0-13. The Trundle pillar, insane. But Tian's been insane all game long.
That's the crying move from Wayward to finish things off. But I think the team, you can see them so happy after that one. What a performance coming out, honestly. Tian with the fantastic start to the game. Knight really bridging the gap when it got to the mid game. And the bot lane in general, so much pressure applied to them. Managed to remain strong. Wayward, despite being ganked on repeat, still super relevant. And it just felt like Top Esports, a team who had fantastic early, but a weaker mid game. You can see what they can do in the mid game now. They've really refined that over the offseason.
I mean, the 0-4 team is struggling, though, on the other side, Orcs. Like, once again, we talk about FPX, and I mentioned to you at the start of this series that this team, like, against V5, they look competitive. They looked quite bloodthirsty themselves. Like, they are, I guess, a pound-for-pound team, if we want to put it that way. But, you know, once again, despite getting some kind of lead decision-making at its core in the mid-game, the Baron we saw return after we talked about improved FPX with decision-making itself. This split seems thrown out the window once again.
You know, that Baron looked bad, and it was. But I can't really fault them because things are starting to feel desperate, right? You got the pick, and you're like, right, we either have to win the game now, or we probably just lose. And I can kind of respect that, because if they go to the Dragon was spawning and Knight would be up with teleport. They wouldn't get an advantage. The pick would have meant nothing. So they were like, we have this pick. You know, let's say the chances of them successfully doing that Baron are like, what, 20%, 25%? It's hard to place an exact number. But the game was starting to feel worse and worse and worse as it went on. I know people will talk about the Fiora scaling the side lane. It felt so far away. The fact that you're forced to contest these Dragons so early because Top Esports stacked them, I just don't think they had time. I think that, as much as it looked rough, might have been their best chance, which is kind of damning for how badly the game had sort of progressed. They never found that early lead they needed because of Tian.
Because Tian was in Clid's face from level 2, the blue buff invade with him and Wayward Orcs. That's what kicked this game off. A really nice first game. And despite FPX, you know, coming back into it, it never felt like it was doomed for Top Esports, that Top Esports were the ones losing out on a trade. It might have been even, but each step of the way, when it was even, then we saw a flip, then we saw Top Esports take back the reins. So really nice when you consider this team right now is top 4. They're 3-1. They just beat BLG 2-0. They beat IG, who look competitive to split 2-0. They lost to JDG. That's their only loss throughout the season, and JDG are currently sitting first. So kind of holding up to their name when Top Esports right now look to be in form, and FPX are going through a lot of different problems throughout their roster.
Yeah, I mean, Top Esports, it was a close series against JDG. That game 3 was a stomp, but obviously it was a very volatile game with like the Draven in the bot lane. So yeah, you can be forgiven for losing to the team who are 5-0, but Top Esports are looking on form. Perhaps even some improvements from spring, but still remains to be seen. I had concerns maybe about the meta for them, but they've made it work. And I really want to credit Mark this game. Mark is someone who, particularly in the recent series, especially against JDG, that game 3, Nautilus just felt like he missed every single dredge line. It was quite painful in all honesty. And this was such a fantastic performance from him on the Braum. So many times they were trying to make plays bot lane, and they were stalled out by this Braum pick. A lot of times we see just like Leona Nautilus trade-off in the LPL. The fact that Braum isn't picked as often, even though it's a good matchup into these champions, because they want to engage. Mark willing to bring it out and then having a really solid performance on it. So credit to him.
I mean, really nice to say. When we said that Mark could have been the issue of Top Esports, we criticized a little bit Orcs. The only thing I want to leave us with before we go to the break is, are we going to see Summit come in? Because remember, he was announced for the roster. I don't know if he's actually in China at the moment. Haven't found that out. But at the very least, game number